Hi, all, and welcome to English 101 at Columbia University. You are either assigned to my section 67 or my section 66. Both of them are the same course, and at least for this first week, the lecture will be the same. So if you hear me refer to 66 or 67, please know that it refers to both courses, and I will just have one up as I walk through, but the courses are actually identical. So, what you will see when you first begin is a little introduction. There I am. You're welcome. Sorry about that. But you'll see how I have everything set up. I have everything in the modules. So, each week has a module, and within that module, you'll see a to do page. And that to do page has all of the instructions step by step for what needs to be done and submitted for that week. So, in line with the to do page, I have everything for each week, the links that I'll be using in my presentation, as well as the submissions that you need to do. And it is the same for each week going forward. So you'll know pretty much really quickly the layout. The first thing that you're assigned is the course activity verification. That's due by Tuesday, October 21st. That is set by Columbia College, and I don't have anything to do with that. But I also have my to-do page. So one of the things that we'll be doing this week is working on our first assignment, and I want to walk you through using the textbook for this course, Patterns for College Writing. So while I have digital access here so that I can show you, I will also be utilizing my hard copy just to keep myself straight. The first assignment that you have this week, if you go back over here and you look at the to-do page, is that you need to read and annotate chapter 1, pages 13 through 25. So I have the page numbers because I have the paperback, but you can do the same thing. You're going to be reading chapter 1, reading to write, becoming a critical reader. And within that section, there's some really good key points here. And it's important that you understand the connection between critically reading as well as critically writing. So there are lots of good things in the book. It tells you some specific things that you can do here to help you read. And the point is that a lot of times we are assigned things and we have to read them, and we know we have to read them and we don't want to read them, so we just kind of skim them. I don't have that kind of time, so I can promise you whatever I give you to read is actually quite important and relevant to whatever you're going to be doing. So it's really important that you pay attention to that. One of the things that you guys think about when you hear the word annotate is you think about highlighting. And while that can be good, what sometimes happens is that people highlight the whole page and they don't understand when they go back what it is that they're highlighting. And I like to tell my students that when you highlight, that lets me know that you like color. But another thing you might do is underline. And again, this is a little bit more detailed. It tells me where some points were that you stopped and maybe you made a connection like I see here. But for the most part, this doesn't really tell me much about your critical thinking as you go through the text. So the best way to annotate is then actually to provide some notes within that. This is critical. What is it that you're thinking? And so you can see these notes on the side here. Let me know your thoughts as I evaluate how engaged you are with the text. And if I don't know your thinking, I don't know where to help you correct your thoughts. So that's a key element for reading and writing critically. It's crucial that we take notes on that. So one of the things that I have for you in the module is the importance of handwriting. It's a very short article, but it really helps to help people who are in the techno age and just want to type everything understand why we have to handwrite. The research out there is vast to let us know that handwriting helps us remember things better, and it activates multiple parts of the brain. The more parts of the brain that you can connect with, the more likely you are to recall information. So while we may not like our handwriting, and I'm not telling you to turn in beautiful handwriting, because if you've ever seen mine, you wouldn't be able to necessarily read it, but I can. And it's about learning to understand what it is that you're reading and why. And the handwriting piece of that is critical. So, one of the things that I have provided for you in the modules is how to take notes as you read. This PDF just gives a quick overview. This is a simple way that you can take notes as you read. I'm not mandating that you turn in this handout. I'm just letting you know that these are some things that you can do while you're going through the text. One thing that you can do is use symbols. If you feel like printing this out and writing on it, go to. If you have your own handwriting system of note taking, do that as well. But I wanted to make sure that you had those resources. So one thing that you can do is use a plus symbol for anything that you like, anything you agree with, something that maybe connects with another thing. What does it relate to? How does it relate to your life? So any of those kind of positive connections. You can also use a negative symbol that is something that you may not agree with, or it has a negative connotation. There's something that you dislike about it. Again, it may be disagreement. It may be that you think their ideas don't go together, but that would be something else you could do. Another symbol would be an exclamation mark. What is it that you find interesting about it? Why is this an important piece of information? What is it? Maybe it's a super positive connection that you've made. Anything like that. And then the fourth symbol you can use is the question mark. What question comes to mind as you read a particular section? Maybe it's a word that you don't know. Maybe it's a question that comes up as you're reading and it connects to something else. And you might ask yourself, well, how does that relate to this? So that's something else you could annotate. And then after you've read a section, you always want to be able to summarize it. So just consider using a 20 or 30 word summary, even for an entire chapter. That way, you'll be able to get through the reading. So I've asked you to read through chapter 1 and take these notes. I think that will be critical for you as you go forward. Additionally, this week, we'll be looking at an image. You will find your own image. You will annotate the image. You'll take notes on the image. You'll talk about what's going on in the picture. So this is an older cartoon. It says Bangladesh, this week's factory death toll 433 and counting. And it says, avoid burdensome government regulation. Move your company to. And over here, then it tells us move it to Bangladesh. Well, I don't know about you, but this doesn't really make me feel good. So this is bringing a level of pathos or empathy. I don't feel comfortable looking at a destroyed building. I definitely wouldn't want to work there. The implication is that government regulation is not important, and you should come here where there are only 433 deaths and counting in a week. We see here people carrying out what appears to be bodies, so that's playing on our emotions as well. So we get the feeling that something bad is going on in Bangladesh. And it's very important then to avoid that burdensome government regulation. And we should move our company there, because who needs regulation? That's completely illogical. And we know that, hopefully you know that I was being sarcastic. But so again, just by looking at these headlines and these images, I can make some assumptions. Obviously, something had been going on in Bangladesh where there were factory deaths. It had to do with government regulation or the lack thereof. Perhaps somebody in Bangladesh, the building was not built to code, and that's why it collapsed, and that's the struggle. And that's just me looking at an image. But if I go on to read, then I see that I was pretty much right. That the cracks were discovered in the building before the collapse. even though it was still deemed safe. And it says that this cartoon has 3 main visual elements: the message in the upper left-hand corner, which I addressed, the center scene of devastation, which I addressed, as well as the factory death toll, which I addressed. So just me paying attention to the cartoon, I noticed a few things, and apparently my observations were right. So that's really key. So it's not just annotating to annotate, but checking yourself. What is it that you notice versus what some expert might say? Because that's what you guys are going to be doing for your first assignment. You're going to be doing a visual rhetorical analysis. And then you're going to be taking a look at that image, highlighting and annotating it, and letting me know what you see. So the picture that's in the textbook was an ad for Discover the Forest. And if you notice that this person has gone in and they have their image, they've made several observations about it, and we can see that the student is in the same position. We notice all of this white empty space. Well, that can kind of be a negative feeling. There's nothing there. And that might be the message that the creator of this image is trying to create, that the vast majority of the space is empty and only a little bit here comes through the television. Whereas down here, we can see lots of bright spots and bright lights. And over here, while we still have the bright white light, it's very bland. Here, it's got us looking all over the place. So we can see how this person has annotated this image. And they've given us one message: unplug. And that message obviously means get out of the technology and figure out what's going on around us. That's another reason that I'm asking you to handwrite your annotations with this. So that is chapter 1. I've also asked you to take a look at chapter 2, inventions. And invention has to do with your pre-writing. In the pre-writing, you need to understand that your purpose is going to be to complete the visual rhetorical analysis. So you are going to look at this image, whichever image you pick. You are going to then make some observations, make some connections, figure out what's going on in the image, what that message entails. You're also going to be looking at the emotions, the ethos, pathos, or logos that come out of the image. So if we go back to our previous image, let me back up one more time. Sorry. When we get back to our image, okay, unplug is very specific. That might simply apply to our logos or our logic. It's a very simple command, unplug. It's not hard to do and it makes sense. That's what makes it logical. Whereas the emotion or the pathos might come from the feeling that we get being surrounded by all of this lush greenery, a sense of comfort or peace or wonder. And that's more of an emotional attachment. The fact that it comes from discovertheforest.org, or the fact that the ad council, I can say my words, the ad council sponsors this, lends itself to a little bit of ethos. These people wouldn't tell us to do anything that was going to harm us. They support this message. And so by having a valid, critiqued organization supporting your message adds a little bit of credibility or ethos to what we're saying. So as we're doing that, we've identified our purpose and our audience. And then what we need to understand is how we're going to go about that. So we have several different things that we're going to look at. You need to make sure that you understand your image. You need to understand that you have specific things that you're looking for in that. You're looking for the ethos, pathos, and or logos. of the image, what elements of the image create that ethos, pathos, and logos, and then you want to get more specific about that. So the textbook continues to go through and give you several different things that you can think about. It also provides you some sample writings. Those are really good to read. Brainstorming again, notice that this is an image of the handwriting that this person did. Again, the importance of handwriting. They give you another entry that's student work, and you can also organize your information by categorization. So your image would be here, then you might have ethos, pathos, and logos here. So any of those details that would be in the text are going to be helpful. It also walks you through how to develop a thesis statement. So what a good thesis statement does is all of this. Your thesis statement is your focus point. And if you don't have a focus point, then you lose the structure of your paper. The thesis statement is the is the backbone of your paper. Everything you write in your thesis should be everything that you're going to talk about in your paper. So it could simply be something as simple as the creators of the Unplug advertisement use ethos, pathos, and logos to convince the viewer that it's much more important to be outside experiencing life than it is to be watching it through a television. And then each of your paragraphs from that would then go on to tell me where the ethos is, where the pathos is, and where the logos is. So make sure you read through all of this information for thesis statements as well. Each one of those is critical to what you're doing. So I also have links in the module that show you a few examples of things. So, one, these are examples of famous ads. So if you don't have an ad in mind and you'd rather pick one up, don't know why that popped up. That's sad. I'll go back and change that link. Well, we can just go to Google here. And let's see, famous visual ads. Search, let me do images. So notice that I've got tons of images here. I don't know why it went with Coca-Cola, but hey, I'm a collector, so maybe that's why. But look at this one right here. So this is obviously a rotted tooth. This brings back, I'm feeling the pain of this tooth, although I've never had one that bad. But a lot of times our ads are built on emotion. Interestingly enough, this ketchup ad over here, if you'll notice, those are tomato slices. So that might actually be ethos or logos, because we know that eating vegetables is very important. Oh, anything with an animal, y'all, straight up pathos. I hear what's the McLaughlin woman in my head, in the arms of an angel, and they're, the dogs look so sad for the Humane Society commercials. So that's how you read an image. So I'll fix that link for you guys in just a little bit. But let's go back to here and walk through some of the other things. So the purpose of a visual rhetorical analysis, I've given you some highlights here. It is to lay out the ethos, pathos, and logos that the creator is using to get the viewer to do something. All commercials are designed to persuade us to do something. So finding an image that appeals to you, maybe it's a product that you enjoy, maybe it's an ad that you'd seen recently that popped up and it appealed to you, anything like that, feel free to use that image. Let's go back here. And you have access to all of these. So the elements of the visual design. This is also interesting because it gives you some things to think about and look for as you are paying attention to the visual that you're looking at. Visuals are very specific. They give us key information in a very short amount of time. And what I really liked about this link was that it gave us specific things to look for. Why are there lines in the, what is the role of it? Color, how important is color? And y'all, as I was saying, there is something very, very important about color in design. So pay attention to the colors and the context that those are used in. So, and you can see that there are a few more things. Shape, sizes, space is very important there. You wouldn't have texture in your in your image necessarily, but maybe you could really see some textures. So that would be pretty cool. So, in the modules, as I said, in your to-do list for this week, you'll notice that we've gone through what to do with Chapter 1 and what to do with Chapter 2, answering your discussion prompt. Make sure that you respond to at least 2 classmates. You're going to submit your annotations, and then you're going to submit your draft of your visual rhetorical analysis. So I have all of these assignments listed here for you, and if you need me, feel free to reach out. You guys have a great week.